My neighbor's kid suddenly walked into my living room and asked, "Can I have another fruit roll-up?" I looked up from my homework confused because I hadn't let anyone in and Mom wasn't home yet. The kid was already walking toward the kitchen like he knew exactly where everything was. "What do you mean another?" I said, even though he was already opening the pantry door. He grabbed the box from the second shelf without even looking and tore open a package. "The strawberry ones are better than the tropical." He said it like we'd had this conversation before. "How did you get in here?" I followed him into the kitchen, watching him eat like this was totally normal. He pointed at the back door, which was closed but not locked. Mom always told me to lock it, but I forgot sometimes. I came in the usual way, when the yelling starts. He finished the fruit roll-up and reached for another one. These are the only things that don't hurt my stomach anymore. I'd never really noticed the kid before, even though he lived next door. He was maybe 8 or 9 and smaller than other kids his age. "When did you start coming here?" I asked, watching him carefully fold the wrapper into a tiny square. He thought about it for a second. "When you had the Christmas lights up. I liked looking at them from in here where it's warm. That was 3 months ago." He'd been coming into our house for 3 months and I never knew. The doorbell rang and the kid dropped to the floor so fast I thought he'd fallen. He crawled behind the counter and made himself small. His whole body was shaking. The doorbell rang again, longer this time, like someone was holding it down. I walked to the front door and looked through the peephole. Mr. Rhodes from next door was standing there and he looked mad. "I know you're in there. Open up." His voice was loud enough that the kid definitely heard it from the kitchen. I opened the door but kept the chain on. "Hi, Mr. Rhodes." He tried to look past me into the house. "Is Billy here?" I'd never known the kid's name was Billy. He ran off again and when I find him, he's going to regret it. The way he said regret made my stomach feel weird. I haven't seen him. I said it without thinking about whether I should lie or not. Mr. Rhodes pushed against the door, testing the chain. "You sure about that? Because I saw him come this way, and he's already in enough trouble." He was bigger than my dad, and his face was red like he'd been drinking. "Maybe he went to the park?" I suggested, trying to sound helpful. He stared at me for a long time, then turned and walked down the steps. But he didn't go home. He stood in our front yard looking at all the windows. I went back to the kitchen and Billy was still behind the counter. He's gone, kind of. Billy didn't move. He does this. He'll wait. He waited 4 hours once. We stayed like that for maybe 10 minutes before Mr. Rhodes finally walked back to his house. Billy stood up slowly and went to the pantry again. "Can I take some for later? Sometimes I can't come here for days." He was already stuffing snacks into his jacket like he was preparing for winter. Just then, Mom's car pulled into the driveway and Billy went completely still. She stopped when she saw him in our kitchen. "Oh, honey, what are you doing here?" She said it gentle, like she was talking to a scared animal. Billy started crying then. Not loud, just tears running down his face. "He hits me." Billy said it so quiet I almost didn't hear. "When I don't do things right, when I'm too loud, when I'm too quiet." Mom sat down so she was at his eye level. "I just needed somewhere quiet, somewhere nobody gets angry." Mom reached out slowly and Billy flinched. "I'm not going to hurt you," she said, and Billy nodded but didn't stop crying, but still let her hug him. "I used to pretend you were my family." He sniffled in her arms. "I'd sit in here and eat fruit roll-ups and pretend I lived here instead." Mom was crying now too. She pulled out her phone and Billy just watched her. He didn't ask her not to call. He didn't beg. He just looked tired. On the phone, Mom was saying things like mandatory reporter and evidence of abuse and giving our address. Mr. Rhodes started pounding on our door again before the police arrived. Mom didn't open it. Billy ate 4 more fruit roll-ups while we waited. He said they were the only thing that made him feel better. The police took pictures of the bruises on his back and arrested Mr. Rhodes. Billy went with a social worker who said she'd find him somewhere safe. Mom gave him the whole box of fruit roll-ups to take with him.